on here that's also in the Vincennes University Partnership Program that we previously talked about beforehand. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us this evening. Megan and I have a slew of questions that we got via our Instagram chat yesterday evening. And just some common questions that we get as a recruiting team and that students ask us. So are we ready to get started? Awesome. I will have each of you, introduce yourself. Can you guys say your first name? Well, your names are on here, but that's fine. Where you guys are originally from, and maybe where you're at in your flight training. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first, I guess. Should I turn my camera on?
Sure. Yeah, if you guys could turn your cameras on, that'd be great.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
So my name is Peyton. You can probably see that, but I am the one that's a part of the Vincennes Lift Partnership Program. I just recently completed my private pilot certificate, so that was back in December. And since then, I've been waiting to start the instrument course and starting next week, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Great, that's awesome.
I'm Ben. I'm from Nantucket, Massachusetts. I'm on my commercial rating right now. I got my private in August and my instrument in December. And yeah, I moved out here in 2019 to start training with Lift.
Great.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I moved here from Northwest Ohio, and I am finishing up my commercial multi. I'm a CFII, and I started Lift in the middle of December in 2019.
Great. Awesome. Go ahead, Colin.
All right, I'm Colin. I'm originally from Huntsville, Alabama, and I started at Lift back in August of last year, and I am about almost a third of the way through my commercial rating now.
Great. Peyton, where are you from again?
I'm actually from the Indianapolis area, so
Okay.
I'm just on the north side, so pretty convenient.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So some of the questions that we received yesterday, let me take a look. How about, can you describe your day as a student at Lift Academy? Any of you can take that one.
I guess I'll go first again. But typically what happens if I get there, so kind of depends if we're doing like a ground session or like actual flight that day. So if it's a flight, I get there usually 30 minutes, maybe it's a little bit before the actual scheduled flight block. That gives you time to you have to do a complete pre-flight and kind of look at the weather, get anything else that's kind of going on that day. Just kind of get a picture of it. And then by the time you do all that, it's pretty much right at your flight block, and either the plane that you were waiting for or the instructor or whatnot, they're ready to go. So you can get started. You do your flight, whatever it may be, whatever lesson or stage check, whatever it could be, knock that out. It's usually 2-hour flight blocks per lesson. But yeah, that's for if it's a flight, and someone else can probably explain if there's a ground lesson.
Yeah, usually, I mean, for like a ground, I'd get there like, 20, 15 minutes before or something. It's the same kind of deal. There's a lot more flying than grounds, I think. But you come in, usually you've been studying whatever is required to study for that ground. And then the ground lesson itself is just kind of the instructor going over all the stuff that you've studied with you. The one thing I will add as well is usually instructors are pretty flexible, which is nice. I'm at Lift right now. I'm in between 2 flights. I was flying twice today.
You can see your background that you're at Lift.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything else to add on that?
I'll add a little bit.
Right.
In terms of with the flying, what I usually do before even getting in the car and going to lift is just I keep track of the weather starting about 24 hours before, because that just helps me get a bigger picture about what's going on in the area. That helps out. Using strategic planning, it helps out more with the tactical planning later on during the flight. So it's not necessarily you study, get there, and then go. It can start hours or even days earlier, depending on what you need to do.
Awesome. Anyone else have anything to add? You guys had good answers.
How about, this is a tough one. What's been your biggest challenge in your flight training that you've been doing so far? We're going to go backwards this time. So, Joe, you start. You're muted. There we go.
Boy. Yeah. The biggest challenge with flight training is probably staying consistent studying wise when there's not good weather.
Okay.
It's pretty good to come in and fly a lot, because then you go home and you're excited about what you need to learn for your next lesson. It's just when we have a week of thunderstorms or low clouds in the wintertime. The biggest thing is just to keep on building those building blocks of knowledge, and it's pretty difficult when you're not in the plane or when you're not in the plane on a regular basis. So I'd say that's probably my biggest challenge.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that. I was going to say the weather as well, which, fingers crossed hasn't been too much of an issue this year, which has been nice. We've been getting a lot of flying in. But also, I mean, all of you guys know this, but right behind me, all the briefing rooms have the 2D cockpit posters. So I know last winter I was not flying a lot just because of the weather, and it was nice to just come in here. You can just sit in front of it, refresh all your flows, all your checklists, stuff like that, to stay current as well, which is helpful.
Great. Did any of you come to Lift Academy with any previous ratings?
Yeah, I started, I got my private pilot back in 2017, and I just flew as a VFR pilot for a little over 100 hours, and then decided maybe I should take training a little more seriously, do it a little more regimented, and
Yeah.
here I am.
Great.
So,
Anyone else come with any ratings? Or just Colin? Just Colin.
Awesome. What is, and you guys can all answer this, or a couple of you, it's up to you guys. What is your favorite part about Lift and flight training at Lift?
I would definitely say the planes. I didn't come here with a rating, but I had a friend who was instructor back home. I did some flying with him, and it was in a really, really old Cessna 172 with no glass, no GPS.
Yeah.
And I came here, and you sit in these, I flew a plane a couple months ago with 78 hours on it. Like, they're just that new. So that's really fun. All the avionics are brand new. All the G1000 NXIs, even compared to other G1000s, are better and upgraded and stuff like that, and have a bunch of new features. The planes are a lot of fun to fly as well. They're designed really well. They're fast compared to their counterparts in the same category. That was definitely the most exciting part for me about getting here as well, is just transitioning into a little bit of a higher performance aircraft. It was pretty cool.
I don't have particularly, I've probably been here the shortest out of all the other students, but I was originally going to say the planes as well. But other than that, probably just the whole setup of the facility. So kind of like you mentioned earlier, the briefing rooms, the use of technology and the iPads. You have the screens behind you, and you can use the TVs and hook up broadcast your iPad. That's all pretty neat and pretty helpful. So,
I mean, I can say the planes too, because the planes are amazing. I just flew a different general aviation aircraft today, and it made me pretty grateful to be at Lyft. But more than just the planes, I like the people, because anybody and everybody is willing to help out. So, if somebody's ahead of you in the program, you can talk to them. You can find out what they did to get through their training. Especially the CFIs, most of the CFIs, you can just come up and ask them a question. If they're not literally walking out the door to go for a flight, they will answer your question. So that's probably my favorite part, is the fact that you can ask anybody a question about anything and they're happy to help.
Yeah, I fully agree with all the other answers, but also one of my favorite parts is the flexibility of everything. You are able to, as a student, you are able to work a full-time job and do training, and you can usually work the schedule out to where you get off at your job at, say, in my case, 1:30 in the afternoon, drive straight over to Lyft, and be ready to fly by the curfew block, which I think starts at about 2:15 or so. And so the timing can work out pretty much however you need it to.
Very cool.
Awesome.
How about the best advice that you could give to a future student, or someone that was in your shoes before you decided to enroll at Lyft? If you could look back, what advice would you give to a prospective student?
I'd say probably, if you haven't flown yet, to take a discovery flight.
Yeah.
So you know what you're doing. It's a lot easier to come here. It creates a lot clearer goal, because usually you go out for a discovery flight and have a blast, and then you know that you want to get here. And those can be a lot of fun as well. It's a nice introduction.
I would probably say get your medical certificate before you even do anything else. Go see your eye doctor, get an updated prescription if you need that, and then schedule your medical. That way, you know that, yes, you can hold the first class, or maybe, no, maybe I'm restricted to a second or third class because of a medical condition. But that way you at least know before you try and figure out funding and a timeline for everything.
That's a great point.
I definitely echo the thing about the medical for sure. I'd probably bring it back to talking to people again.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize the first month or 2 months I was here how useful it was just to maintain motivation to be in and around Lyft. And studying in the briefing room is a little bit easier than studying at home.
Right.
So if you can shut the door in the briefing room and study by yourself, and then if you have a question about something that you learned, you can open the door and go out and ask somebody. And it's huge. So.
Yeah, we're pilots, and talking to other pilots just gets us excited for everything.
Exactly.
Fear of missing out on an opportunity that someone else had, it makes you excited.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's see. We did have someone ask, and this would be a question for us admissions recruiters, but if you came in and failed an area such as math on the Compass test, how would that affect your chances of entering Lyft? So it is a composite score. So even if you do not so great on one section, and you do better on other sections, it kind of adds up and evens out, if that makes sense. So don't worry about one single section on the test. You will not know your score, so we don't give out the score to the Compass test, but you will kind of know how you did somewhat based on your admissions decision. We also do an interview as well and look at that. So don't worry too much about the Compass test. Definitely take it seriously, but it is not the end all be all.
Yeah, the students on the call right now, I mean, you guys all had to take the Compass test as part of your admissions application, and every student that comes through our doors and enrolls at Lift Academy does have to take that Compass test as well. Do any of you guys have any advice or positive thoughts for prospective students regarding that test?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad, really, honestly. The biggest area that I just like brushed up on was 5th grade math, basically.
Yeah.
But we
You know,
tell
you have to
people.
do long division and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, I remember kind of being worried about it, but once you're in it, there you kind of figure it out as you go along, and it's not bad at all, really.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Brush up on the areas, but don't stress about it.
Yeah. And like they said, if you don't do well in one portion, I mean, I think the most important thing is to not get frustrated with it, because
Yeah.
there were some portions on it that weren't incredibly easy. They did. I'm being a little sarcastic. They weren't very easy, and then there were some other portions that seemed easy. And so, if you go together and get a good composite score, that's what really matters.
Absolutely. Great.
All right. Shelby, do you have any other questions that we got?
Yes, I do. I am just pulling them up. I apologize.
Oh, you're okay.
Oh, here we go. When you were looking at other flight schools or looking at flight schools to attend, what drew you to Lift Academy's program versus any of the other programs that you may have been looking at?
Something for me at least. I mean, I just graduated high school in May of 2020. So for me, I kind of knew that college wasn't, the traditional college, I guess, wasn't something that would be necessarily perfect for myself.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at kind of other things in the area or going sort of elsewhere in the United States, I had applied to Lyft while I was still in high school and was going to start in like, I think May or June, right when I did graduate. But with COVID and everything, it ended up actually working out really well, because by that time that everyone was back at it and the school was still flying,
Yeah.
the Vincennes partnership program came out. So that kind of was something for me that kind of like a nail in the coffin that, okay, I can get a degree and I can get all my certificates and ratings in one place. So that was kind of what made my decision.
Great.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
would definitely second all of that. I was looking at colleges and stuff, but honestly, the timeline to get all your ratings there, 4 years, and I had talked to a lot of people where they'd even gotten delayed on their training, and they were doing like 5 years at a college to get their commercial multi and stuff like that. Whereas at Lyft, you can, if you want to, and if you've got the time, you can fly like 7-8 times a week. Like it's pretty easy to get in there, and you can just get everything done so fast. It's, you know, it isn't I don't know, I guess there's no kind of like academic program distractions or anything. It's just about the flying and just getting the licenses and getting to that point. And then along with that as well, the partnership with Republic was a big draw for me. It just, I mean, to be able to get your foot in the door in the industry this early is really pretty cool. And even though, you know, colleges may have recruiting events and stuff, a lot of them aren't directly affiliated with airlines like Lyft is. So that was really cool as well.
Yeah, the connections were a huge thing for me. Like you just said, that in the aviation industry in general, who you know and the connections you have are critical to everything.
Absolutely.
If you know this pilot flying a Gulfstream that you see at the airport every other week, get their business card. If you see an airline pilot, get all the information you can from them. And also just the flying in a different part of the country. I'm used to flying in Alabama, which is mostly flat, dealing with summertime thunderstorms. So it was a different flying experience, having to deal with icing, lower ceilings. It was perfect IFR training, really, in the fall. So it was mainly just a change of scenery, a more regimented program. Like I know what I'm doing in each of these lessons. I don't show up at the airport saying, what are we doing today?
Right. That's great.
I mean, there are a couple things that drew me to come here, and then there are a couple things that would be the reasons I could tell other people to come here. And the things that drew me to come here were the partnership with Republic and then the fleet of new aircraft. I mean, it's a very safe school, which you don't really find all over the place.
Right.
A lot of schools might be advertised as safe, but you don't really know until you get there as to how good the maintenance is. And the maintenance here is really, really good. And that's an incredible part of it. But also, since I got here, it's very clear cut what you need to do in order to be successful. And I've heard from other people's experiences in other places that it's not always that way. And so that's one of the things I love about Lyft is that you know what you have to do. And if you don't know, you can always ask somebody.
Right.
And it's written out in our TCO and all those other things. And that's what I love about it. It's just you know what you have to do and what you have to get done. And then he mentioned also how much flying you can do.
Yeah.
There were some weeks where I was here for 10, 12, 14 hours in the day for 5-6 days a week because of how good the weather was. And we have planes and instructors, and you're able to fly as much as you possibly can to get your ratings done. So.
Awesome.
All right. See, Brett is typing, so we'll see if he has another question.
Did you guys get to fly today? I know it was, or this week. I know it's been really nice this week in Indiana.
Yeah, I just came back from a flight from Michigan.
Great.
And then in an hour or so, I'll be going out again just to do a bunch of landings at, I don't know, regional, something like that. So
Awesome.
Yay.
Yay.
Nice. Yeah. I did my last multi-engine flight today. So
Awesome.
signed off for the check ride.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Almost there.
Almost there. I'm this close.
This close.
Yeah, I had to find the camera.
Right. Wait. Yeah, the hangar has been very busy this week in a good way. You're muted, Meg.
Brett said, not a questions, but thank you for all the information. Very helpful. Awesome.
You are very welcome, Brett.
Well, thank you guys all so much for joining us tonight and answering questions about life at Lyft. We really appreciate it and appreciate your input. And yeah, thanks for getting on.
Thank you.
All right. Have a
Thank
great
you,
night.
guys. Have a
Thanks
great
for having
evening.
us.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
You too.
Bye, guys.